Well, sometimes I take on bigger jobs that take a long time, and most of the time I just do shorter jobs. Today's project is on, they call it a stacker race car trailer. Out at the Crescent Motorsport Ranch. That's one of my customers there. That's another customer. Got a customer over there. And today's customer races McLarens and Porsches. Now this job originally started out with, it doesn't look like it, but this is the actual ramp on the back. They let this down, they put the car on it. Then they put the cars up there, and then they call these a stacker. So the first job I had on this was, there's a hydraulic cylinder in there and there, and what we call a carriage assembly. You can kind of see the top up there, and hydraulically, this thing lowers, raises, and you can tilt left to right side, and you use a rotary manifold. Wish I had a video of it if I work on one again. It's a pretty cool little device. It's all mechanical. There's no electronics to it other than the solenoids on the outside. Works really neat. Done a tremendous amount of work to this trailer. This is like a 25-year-old trailer, and they just get used and abused. But that cylinder was leaking. So I pulled the cylinders out. I was going to rebuild them, and I got to this one. It doesn't look like it in the video, but this rod is really screwed up, especially the threads on the end. So the cylinder was trash, and to get a new set was going to take quite a long time, and we didn't have the time at that point. We didn't think we had the time, but more and more problems kept arising on this project. The farther I got into it, more work it needed. So this is the original ramp, and you can see how there's a bow in it. That's not supposed to be bowed. That should be completely straight. But this pin right here is rusted into the hinge, and the bottom of this entire section is completely rotted out. You see some cancer there, cancer there. Now we could have cut the bottom of this off, welded in some new pieces, scabbed them in, and it probably would have been okay, but we'd have to pull that panel off, pull all the tread plate panel off, and at that point, it's like just have a new frame built. So we had this one built, and I had to come in today to do some wiring. Now there's brake light, turn signals, and your running lights on this side, that side, and on the top, and then some marker lights on the top. But this harness, this is the old harness that I pulled off of it, and it's awful. I didn't want to reuse it. A lot of this stuff is just electrical taped together, butt connectors that have no heat shrink, no sealing at all. There's some wire nuts that were used on this guy, like that, and it was just an absolute mess. And in the old door, all of those wires were just ran through metal, like they just drilled a hole through metal, ran it through it, and kind of hoped for the best. None of it was tied down, it was all loose. And so what I did, I ordered this cord, just 4-wire cord, just like that. I used these pipe clamps to hold it in on the side. Used grommets every single place that it ran through. So when this thing shuts, there's a connector that goes here, like that on this side, and then a little curly Q pigtail cord goes from in there and plugs into the ramp. But it goes up to here, ran through there, again, grommets everywhere, pipe clamps to hold it in. When I got to this point, I always leave a little extra wire. I know what you're thinking, like, why didn't you run it right there? Because you have to keep in mind, like, stuff breaks, and especially the little connectors that go into the tail lights themselves, they have to be replaced. If you make it really, really tight, then the next guy that comes in, it's a royal pain in the ass to try to get it connected. So if you leave little extra kind of service loops, and then they can pull the wire out and repair it, or I can pull the wire out. So I leave a loop here, leave some extra cord in here, and again, everywhere you see that it goes through metal, it's actually got a grommet on it. Left a service loop there, and left enough cord to go all the way through. And I ran my ground on from this guy right there, and there's one over there, so we should have a good ground. Making a wiring harness really isn't that difficult. It's not. It just takes some planning and some parts on hand. If all you have is just regular uninsulated butt connectors or whatever, some electrical tape, that's fine for like a temporary repair, but that's only to get you back or get you to the shop that's going to do the job right, in my opinion. Now, I use a myriad of different things. Instead of using insulated butt connectors, I use these. Just regular little butt connectors. Always keep a razor blade in here. Then for those, use an actual set of crimpers that has that little half moon. So the little nipple on those two are for non-insulated, and the ones that don't have anything are for insulated. And the problem with insulated connectors, I have never been able to find a crimper that can crimp insulated butt connectors or any kind of insulated connector properly without splitting the insulation and getting a good crimp. On the ones that are not insulated, they kind of smush them down, and a lot of times you can just pull the wire right back out and they suck. Another tool I use is a little automatic stripper like this. This automatic stripper works great. Now, I don't use the wire cutter. I mean, you can, it does work. So you put that wire through there, comes out the back, clip that, and it cuts it off. But it's a pain because to cut it right in the area, you kind of have to know where that cutter is. So to cut a lot of wire, I use these little Nippics. They're spring return. They got a little lock on them. They cut pretty large cable and just work great. So I use those to cut. So I use these. If you put those in the right hole, they cut, and then as you let go, it drops the wire, and these don't smash back together until you get to a certain point, like that. Now, because these aren't the automatic type that like just cut down into the wire and pull, there's no damage on it as long as you use the right little holes in there. And there's even, I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but there's numbers up top that tell you the gauge of wire. So if we're going to connect these two, let's see, I don't have any of this, I don't have the actual right size for this, so the example is still the same. You take your wire, you take it like that, you look to see where that little indentation is right there. You see that little nipple? Put that nipple on the opposite side, like that. You put it in, you squeeze. Now you've got a non-insulated butt connector, but you need to use some heat shrink. You know, so what you'll do, take your heat shrink. Now heat shrink, you want dual walled adhesive lined. Now for whatever reason they don't have it checked on here, it is dual wall adhesive line. You can look on the writing, it says dual wall. There is adhesive on it. But you take that guy, slide it over, and melt it. Now something else you can do, if you have a piece of wire that's just sticking off the side like this, you can put the right size heat shrink, put it on there halfway, heat it up, and then once it's hot, grip this like that, and that adhesive will actually seal that end. I'll show you that on doing this side. So take any kind of torch. Grip it like that, and now you've got a sealed end that water can't get in. And sometimes when you do it when it's hot, it'll open back up, but just keep pinching it, and that'll stay sealed forever. Now something else I use a lot for trailer cords. Every single trailer cord you ever come to is always going to be the same way. It's just going to be wire strips shoved in the little holes and the screw tightening it down, just like this. Now the problem with doing it that way is that's stranded cord. You should always be using stranded copper wire for any kind of automotive or anything that's going to move. You don't want to use solid core because it doesn't really do good with vibration. But it goes in there, and that screw only hits a couple of those conductors, and then the rest of them just kind of meet the outside. So what you can do is you buy a set. These come together, this tool and the little ferrules is what these are called. And they're in all sorts of different gauges. So you strip your wire back, you take your ferrule, you slide it on there like that. You want to cut the wire to where you can just barely see any copper coming out. Then you take these, make sure they're open. You put that right there like that. You just squeeze it. And that's enough. So now, all your copper strands are all together. And it makes a really nice connection. Something like this. If you pull that out, you can tell like, that didn't make a very good connection. Didn't crimp very well. It just barely put, pressure on it. So you take that, you stick it in the hole, you put your screw in, and it makes a much better connection on there, and it adds serviceability to it. So if you ever need to change this plug out, you pull these out, and it makes it real easy just to stick the other one in, put the screw back in, and you're done. Now, there's a whole bunch of other options that you can use. There's some solder seal butt connectors. I really like those. They work really good. You have to use them a certain way. I've got a video, I'll link it somewhere around here, to show you how to use those properly. Most people don't use them properly, and even the instructions tell you to mess it up basically, and it's always going to be a problem. But I use those. If it's something that's hidden, I'll use those non-insulated, and I'll use actual heat shrink tubing, that dual wall adhesive line heat shrink, because it just lasts forever, and I've hardly ever had a problem with one coming off. Now, if you try to put that on dirty wire, that adhesive won't stick to dirt. So you take like a hand wipe and you wipe the wire down, and then yeah, I know some of you guys really like that motion. You wipe the wire down, dry it off, and then use your adhesive line, and it'll stick to it, and it'll work great. I really like doing wiring, but I absolutely hate trailers, because every single trailer that I've ever worked on, that one or the one back there that you can't see, or that one way over there, even from the factory, they do the cheapest amount of work they can possibly get away with. They don't use good butt connectors. A lot of times they don't even use butt connectors. They just use Scotch locks, which I can't stand, or wire nuts. And as long as the lights come on, they're like, and the guy pays the money, then you're good. Now, it's a lot different if you're driving a trailer and all you have is like a truck stop and you're just going to do a repair real quick. That's it. Then you have to use whatever you can find. If all you can find is Scotch locks, then use a Scotch lock, but fix it after you get done. Pretty cool little project. I'm not going to film this entire thing because it's a tremendous amount of work, and I don't feel like setting the camera up and everything. But the tread plate goes on there, or tread plate screws down to here, rivets down rather, and then this panel goes underneath, which is over there, and then it's bonded. So you use a special 2-part epoxy bond. You lay down, press the panel down, and then you rivet down, and then it's good to go. I probably will film hooking it up over here and putting the pin in and everything, and then when it first starts working. Not normally part of my job scope to do this much work, but every now and then I like taking on big jobs, and it's one thing I really like about what I do is I never work on the same thing over and over. Don't work for a dealer. I don't have to work on the same color of equipment every single time, the same truck every single time. And a lot of stuff makes you think out of the box. Hope you like the video. If you guys want any of this stuff, I highly recommend you get a ferrule kit. Link for this will be down in the description. This is a really good brand of heat shrink tubing. I don't know if the brands are any different. They all seem to be about the same, as long as it's dual wall adhesive lined heat shrink. The little ferrules, that'll be down in the description. My favorite little wire strippers. If you're a mechanic, like even if you're not a mechanic, I mean, you got to get a pair of these. This is way better than that other bullshit 1701, you know, does do all everything and it never does anything well. Those little Nipix pliers right there, they're Nipix cable cutters. Perfect, fits in your pocket, really nice. An actual pair of like crimpers, and this isn't actually like the best pair of crimpers. This is just a good field pair. The better ones are the ratcheting ones because you can't over tighten it. These you can actually squeeze down so hard that you split butt connectors, and that's not what you want. Now, if you're not doing a whole project like this, there's little kits of heat shrink tubing that you come. I'll put that down in the description. You guys can figure out your own torch setup. All stuff that if you're going to do this day to day, or you're going to do a trailer wiring project, or you're planning on repairing all the stuff, then in my opinion, you need all this stuff. So I hope you liked the video. Hit the like, subscribe button. Throw your comments down below about your own wiring repairs or any tips and advice you have for anybody else, and get out and fix something.